I don't think that we can ever have peace with my family unless the truth is out there.
I commit myself to serve you all, King, country, and Commonwealth. God save the King.
He's the heir to the throne, and the man many believe will finally bring order to the royal chaos of recent years. But behind palace walls, Prince William has just made a quiet decision that's sending subtle shockwaves through the monarchy.
We're looking roughly 50 solutions over the next 10 years that can really turn the tide and really change the way we deal and tackle with environmental challenges. Then it would have been a success.
There were no official statements, no front-page drama, just a silent shift that carries the weight of betrayal, especially for one royal mother and her 2 children, who were promised a choice they'll never get to make. According to insider sources, Prince William has allegedly moved to block the royal titles once reserved for Duchess Sophie's children.
What has impressed you most about her?
I think just the qualities that are essential for somebody in a leadership role.
Lady Louise Windsor and James, the Earl of Wessex. And while the rest of the world is focused on King Charles's leadership and Harry and Meghan's fallout, this decision is quietly redrawing the lines of who truly belongs in the future royal family. It's not just about titles, it's about promises made behind closed doors and then quietly broken. It's about what happens when you raise your children to believe they have the freedom to choose, only to find the choice was taken from them before they ever came of age. And at the center of it all stands Sophie.
Well, he's left a giant-sized hole in our lives. I think unfortunately, the pandemic has slightly slewed things, and as much as it's hard to spend as much time.
Calm, composed, and heartbroken, watching the legacy she built for her children slowly disappear under a new vision of royalty. This isn't a scandal, it's something far more personal. And in royal history, those quiet decisions often echo the loudest. Prince William may be the master strategist many claim he is after all.
My brother and I love each other. I love him deeply. There has been a lot of pain between the 2 of us, especially the last 6 years. None of anything that I've written and anything I've included is ever intended to hurt my family.
For most royal children, their future is written before they can even speak. But for Lady Louise and James, the early understanding was different. They were raised in a gentler, more open-ended environment. According to multiple insider sources, Queen Elizabeth herself had made a quiet agreement with Sophie and Edward. When the children were old enough, they could choose for themselves. It wasn't an official document. It wasn't blasted across Buckingham Palace's gilded press channels. But it was a promise nonetheless, spoken from a grandmother's heart and carried by a mother who trusted in it completely. Louise turned 18 on November 2021. And when that day came, the choice that had once seemed far off was suddenly real. She could have taken on the title of Her Royal Highness Princess Louise of Wessex. She could have stepped forward into the royal spotlight. But she didn't.
It's hard to spend as much time with the Queen than we would like to. We've been trying to, but of course it's still not that easy.
Instead, she declined her royal title quietly and without drama. No fanfare, no statement, just one line from her mother, who later explained, Louise made the decision for herself. It wasn't a rejection of tradition. It wasn't an act of rebellion. It was simply Louise doing what she'd been raised to do, choose her own path. And yet, the choice was still hers. The door, as promised, had been left open. But now, with Prince William's alleged decision to block titles and royal duties for both Louise and James, that door has been firmly shut, without conversation, without ceremony, and without warning. Insiders close to the royal household say the move was part of a broader effort to streamline the monarchy, a plan shared by King Charles and increasingly executed by William himself. But for Sophie and her children, the emotional cost is impossible to ignore. What was once a quiet understanding between generations now feels like a promise unkept. Not because Louise was denied a crown, but because the option itself has vanished at such a convenient time. But what hurt the most is that James didn't even get a chance to consider if he wanted to step into the royal life or not. The chance to do that has evaporated before he even reached adulthood. In the royal world, where titles are everything, the right to choose can mean more than the title itself. And for Louise and James, the freedom they were raised to believe in has quietly been replaced by silence. To the public, Prince William is the steady heir, dutiful, diplomatic, the calm antidote to years of scandal and royal turmoil. But behind palace walls, he's allegedly been making moves, quietly, methodically, that are beginning to reshape the monarchy from the inside out. We are talking moves that make you wonder if Prince Harry was right after all.
There's a lot that I can forgive, but there needs to be conversations and then in order for reconciliation, and part of that has to be accountability.
At the heart of this vision by the prince is one word: streamlining. Long before he ascended the throne, King Charles III had reportedly expressed his desire for a slimmed-down monarchy, a tighter, more focused institution that reflected the modern world. Fewer working royals, less public spending, more control. But it's William, insiders say, who's now quietly executing that plan with precision. Gone are the days when dozens of minor figures in the royal family were seen regularly cutting ribbons and waving from balconies. In their place is a small, central core of royals: William, Catherine, their 3 children, the king and queen, and a select few. And with every quiet omission, every cousin not invited to a major event, and every name left out of a press release, a message is being sent. You're either in or you're not. For Lady Louise and James, this shift is more than just symbolic. It's personal. Because under the new rules William is shaping, there is reportedly no room for second-tier royals, no new additions to the working royal roster, no honorary HRH revivals, no last-minute call-ups. And while William hasn't made a public statement, royal watchers have noticed a clear pattern. When King Charles granted Prince Edward the title Duke of Edinburgh in March 2023, a long-awaited honor in memory of Prince Philip, many expected that James, as his son, might be formally elevated too. He was renamed Earl of Wessex, but no mention was made of James's HRH status, which he still legally holds. And more importantly, there was no indication that he or his sister would ever take on royal duties. According to palace aides quoted in multiple gossip outlets, this wasn't an oversight. It was deliberate. Fewer royals, fewer risks. After years of public backlash, from Prince Andrew's scandal to Harry and Meghan's explosive exit, the monarchy has adopted a posture of self-preservation. And the plan is simple. Keep the circle small, control the message, eliminate uncertainty. And while the strategy may make sense from a PR perspective, it comes with a cost, especially for the younger royals who were raised outside that circle but never expected to be completely shut out. Prince William isn't just managing royal headlines, he's shaping a new royal legacy. One where bloodline isn't enough, and where even the quietest children, like Louise and James, can be left standing at the gates of a palace they were born into but no longer belong to.
And of course, the normal way of things isn't normal yet. So we're not necessarily doing the things that we would normally have done with him.
For years, Duchess Sophie has been described as the royal family's steady hand. Calm, composed, never chasing headlines, never stirring controversy. She wasn't born into royalty, but with the way she carried herself, you'd think she was. Before she married Prince Edward in 1999, she ran a successful PR firm and navigated the spotlight with sharp instincts. But after joining the royal fold, she did something rare. She chose invisibility. Not because she lacked ambition, but because she believed in service without spectacle. And yet, of all the royals who've faded into the background, none have been more quietly vital than Sophie. She became one of Queen Elizabeth's most trusted confidants. During the pandemic, while others stepped back, Sophie was photographed quietly delivering food to frontline workers. No press, no entourage. But now, behind the palace's manicured walls, Sophie is said to be hurting. Sources close to the family say she's been deeply unsettled by Prince William's reported decision to close off royal titles and roles for Louise and James. Not because she wanted her children to be royal celebrities, but because she was told they would have a choice. And for a mother who spent 2 decades protecting that promise, its quiet erasure feels personal. There have been no interviews, no cryptic memoirs, no leaks to the press. But according to royal insiders, Sophie has calmly but firmly reminded palace officials of the late Queen's word, that her children would be free to choose their own paths. And yet, the door appears to have been quietly locked, with no regard for the sacred promise. The emotional weight of this moment isn't about status. It's about trust. Sophie spent years carefully raising her children between 2 worlds, teaching them royal tradition, but never allowing it to define them. She was there for Louise's surgeries. She taught her to drive. She took her to school, helped with homework, and even worked behind the scenes to ensure she could take a summer job at a garden center like any other teen. She wanted to give her children a normal life with an extraordinary option. And now, that option is being taken away without explanation. And still, Sophie stands tall, publicly graceful, quietly grieving. She isn't asking for attention. She's not trying to reclaim power. She's simply standing where she's always stood, between her children and the expectations of a crown that no longer sees them. And in that silence, her quiet storm is starting to speak volumes.
There's a spare and the heir, my brother being the heir and me being the spare, and so there has always been this competition between us, weirdly.
If there was one person in the royal family who truly understood Lady Louise, it was Prince Philip. While the rest of the world barely noticed her, he saw something familiar. A quiet strength, a deep love for the countryside, a spirit that didn't need a crown to feel regal, and above all, a shared passion for carriage driving. It started when Louise was still a young teenager. Philip introduced her to the sport he adored, and she took to it with effortless grace. By her late teens, she was already competing just like her grandfather had. In 2022, just months before Queen Elizabeth passed, Louise drove the very carriage that belonged to Prince Philip at the Royal Windsor Horse Show. It was more than a tribute. It was a moment of inheritance, one not marked by titles, but by legacy. Royal insiders say that of all the Queen's grandchildren, Louise reminded her the most of Philip, not just because of the carriage reins, but because of how she carried herself, quiet, thoughtful, deeply respectful. She never chased attention, but she was always present in the background at Platinum Jubilee celebrations, at Prince Philip's memorial, even walking behind the Queen's coffin with a poise that moved those watching. It's no surprise that during the Queen's final summers at Balmoral, she allegedly spent more time with Louise than any other grandchild. Long walks, quiet conversations about horses, history, and the weight of tradition. The kind of moments that don't make headlines but stay etched in family memory. And now, as the monarchy begins to shift under a new vision, one where royal roles are trimmed and titles are shelved, Louise finds herself sidelined, not by her own choice, but by a structure that no longer makes room for her kind of royalty. She may not carry the title of princess, but those close to the family know she carries something far more enduring: Philip's spirit. And in the age of fast headlines and royal reinventions, that kind of quiet legacy might be the rarest crown of all. If Louise is the royal family's quiet strength, James is its gentle mystery. Born in December 2007, James Alexander Philip Theo Mountbatten Windsor was granted the courtesy title Viscount Severn, a reference to his mother's Welsh ancestry. But as the only son of Prince Edward, he was also destined to eventually inherit the title Earl of Wessex, which became official in March 2023 when Edward was granted the Duke of Edinburgh title by King Charles. By all accounts, James should now be His Royal Highness Prince James of Edinburgh. Under the 1917 letters patent, which is still technically in place, he holds the legal right to use that title. But in reality, that title may never be acknowledged. According to multiple palace sources, Prince William has made it clear that no new working royals will be added to the fold, not now, and not when James comes of age. No titles, no duties, no entry. It's a shift that cuts deeper than it appears, because unlike his sister Louise, who already made her quiet choice to stay out of the royal spotlight, James hasn't yet had the chance to decide. And now, it seems, he never will. He's only 16, still finishing school, still growing into the kind of young man few in the public know much about. But those who've seen him at royal events like the Queen's funeral, the Easter service, and the Commonwealth Games describe him as composed, polite, and strikingly calm for someone so young. At Prince Philip's funeral, James stood tall beside his family, his quiet dignity leaving a lasting impression. He wasn't trained for the spotlight, but he didn't shy away from it either. Behind the scenes, Sophie has allegedly been advocating for him, reminding royal aides of the promise once made by Queen Elizabeth, that when the time came, her children would have the right to choose. But in this new royal reality, the choice may already be gone. William's plan is clear, and while James may have the bloodline and even the temperament to serve the crown, he is being quietly excluded before he's even finished high school. There's no scandal, no dramatic rejection, just a title that remains unspoken and a path that's already been blocked off. And perhaps most heartbreaking of all, James may never even know how close he came. He might grow up thinking this was always the plan, that there was never a door to walk through, that being royal meant being silent and grateful, even as the family name sits on his shoulders. Because in the modern monarchy, it's no longer enough to be born royal. You have to be chosen to stay royal, and James may not be.
It's only when you would do the normal things that you would have done with them and you suddenly realise that they are not there, that you really start to have a, oh my goodness moment.
In the royal family, not all decisions come with declarations. Some arrive quietly through absence, through omission, through doors that simply never open. And that's how the story of Lady Louise and James is being rewritten. Not with conflict or controversy, but with something far harder to fight: silence. There's no official letter from Buckingham Palace, no news headline announcing the shift. Just a growing sense that the roles they were once free to choose have already been assigned to someone else. The monarchy is changing. That much is clear. What's less obvious, but just as consequential, is who gets left behind in that change. Louise and James were raised with the understanding that they could live ordinary lives, but always with the option to return to their heritage if they wanted to. That was the quiet promise. That was the deal. And now, without a single word, that promise has been quietly retired. They haven't been stripped of titles because they never formally accepted them. They haven't been removed from the royal line because they never truly entered it. Instead, they're being softened out of the story, gently, politely, permanently. And it's not just their names that are fading, it's the message behind their exclusion. Because this new version of royalty doesn't just require loyalty, it requires visibility, relevance, a clear place in the palace's future machine. And for children like Louise and James, whose greatest virtues were their quiet dignity and sense of restraint, that future no longer includes them. This is the cost of silence, not scandal, not shame, but the slow, unspoken erasure of those who were promised a seat at the table and are now watching it from the side. And for Duchess Sophie, standing in the background with the memory of a queen's promise and the clarity of a mother's love, it's a silence she'll never forget. So what do you think? Should Lady Louise and James have been given the choice their grandmother allegedly promised them? Was Prince William right to quietly redraw the royal circle? Or have we just witnessed a softer kind of heartbreak? The kind that doesn't make headlines but lingers all the same. Let us know what you think in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you found this story moving, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more stories from behind palace walls, where the real drama is rarely ever loud.